There's an interesting argument that I've seen some people making about credibility, which you just mentioned that this Afghanistan thing harmed the US's credibility. And there's this idea that credibility or reputational credibility isn't real. Like there was famously a Vox article from a few years ago that talked about this called the credibility trap, where they were basically making the argument that, political scientists have shown that reputational credibility isn't actually something that allies and enemies of the U.S. base their decisions on. But I thought you might have a different, perspective on that.
No, I've read this, and I don't disagree in a sense. I mean, nations take decisions based on their own self-interest. So the question is, if I'm a partner with you, you're not going to say, well, Jim Fanell's credible, so I'll go along with what he's suggesting. You're going to say, Jim Fanell can help me in this area because Matt's going to hit me with a hammer, and Jim's going to come in and grab the hammer out of his hand because I'm seeing him physically moving there to take the hammer out of Matt's hand. When you see that and understand that and watch me move, then you're going to say, you don't say it's credibility, you understand what it is. And so I'm not suggesting the term credibility can be used in a kind of a theoretical academic sense. And I'm really talking about in a real sense. When you talk to Grant Newsham, he's always very specific about the kinds of practical things that the Japanese self-defense force and the United States military in the Western Pacific should be doing together. That's the kind of credibility that matters when you're actually physically together and you're actually have common radios and common frequencies and common tactics, techniques, and procedures, and you have command structures where you're sitting side by side and you're commanding both forces together to make sure that you can deal with a situation like in the Senkaku. That is the kind of thing that I'm talking about. But that's set. That relationship is set in a sense with some diplomatic overtures. And so we have to have, we call it the DIME, the diplomatic, information, military, economic. So I had kind of explained military, information, economic, and diplomacy was my last point. I don't know, they're not in any order. China calls it comprehensive national power, but it's this whole of government approach to say that if you think somebody's an enemy, you're going to do everything in your power to stop them from hurting you. Because an enemy, by definition, somebody that wants to hurt you. And see, this is where we don't ever think of China that way. I mean, I do, but I don't think most people do, especially most elites in our government do not. I don't think Secretary of State Blinken actually think China wants to hurt us. I never heard him say it. Yesterday, John Kirby was asked, is the Taliban an enemy of the United States? And he couldn't say it. Now, maybe he couldn't say it because we have 10,000 hostages there. I'll give him a break there. But my point is, we have a tendency to be, as Americans, unwilling to call somebody an enemy. I don't know when that became a problem. We didn't have that problem in World War II. We didn't have that problem in the Korean War. We didn't even have a problem in Vietnam. And we haven't had it in some circles in Afghanistan and Iraq. But more and more, we seem to be unwilling to say that's an imminent threat and we have to neutralize it or deal with it. And so until we can recognize that the Chinese Communist Party intends to inflict damage and hurt on the United States of America, maybe we're never going to react. Once we wake up to that, then it makes it easier for people, I think, to come behind a movement that confronts them.
Well, it seems like in Washington, there's a real fear of what the Chinese Communist Party calls a Cold War mentality. It seems like there's a real resistance to taking things back to the Cold War, when in reality, the Cold War never ended.
Right. I mean, you have this famous book by Graham Allison, The Thucydides Trap, and there's this people in this genre, this cadre of people, I call them, that they put out this idea that we have to engage, because if we don't engage, then we go into this Cold War mindset. And then all it takes is one unintended event, and it will spark a nuclear holocaust. And so they just have this logic train that goes from we have to engage to thermonuclear war in like 10 seconds. And yet every other challenge that we get involved with, like Afghanistan or like Iraq or wherever it is, or dealing with NATO or dealing with Russia, they're always talking about off-ramps and confidence building measures and shades of gray. So we have this mindset where we can see shades of gray in other areas, but when it comes to the PRC, it's black and white. Either we're engaged in appeasing with them, or it's nuclear war. And you're like, well, what happened between all those, the Grand Canyon between those two extremes? Aren't there areas where we can, chip away at their strength and power and their ability to hurt us? And so Cold War mentality gets thrown out. It's a psychological information warfare tool to try to neutralize American elitist liberal thinkers that want to say, oh, we can't go into a Cold War because the last Cold War was very damaging and not good for us. It's very hard right now. I have to be honest. It's very hard to watch what's going on and not get somewhat depressed about where we're heading as a nation. And then I listened to a little clip, this former SEAL, Marcus Luttrell. I don't know if you saw that clip that was on television yesterday. It was on Fox. And he was asked by the announcer, what should we do then, with the situation in Afghanistan? And he unlike what I've just done and discussed with you, he didn't criticize the administration. He just said, I'm not going to do that. What we need to do is we need to be Americans and we need to go get them because we can do this. That's what we do. And so I had forgotten that. I've been out of uniform for a while. We're Americans. This is what we do. China's a threat. China wants to hurt us. China wants to control the world and make America become subservient to it. Yes. Okay. That's a threat. Are they building nuclear missiles? Yes. Are they manipulating the Taliban to our disadvantage? Yes. Are they threatening Taiwan? Yes. All of that. But does that mean we give up and go home? No. We're Americans, and if we come together, we can push them back because what they stand for is inferior and to what we believe in. And it's always been that way. And people want to be free, and people want liberty, and they want fairness, and they want equality. They want to believe that every person is equal. And China does not believe that. They don't believe everyone's equal. You said that earlier, Matt. They don't care about one individual. As Mao said, we can go to nuclear war. We'll still have a lot of people left over. Okay? They don't care about that. And that's reflected in the policies and procedures that they implement on their people. And I know that China's got a lot of money now and people are better off than they were 30 years ago when Deng opened up. But the fact of the matter is those people aren't free. And they are being told where they can go, what they can do, what buildings they can enter, what buildings they can't, what crosswalks that they can go across. And they're being scrutinized and watched, and they don't really have freedom. We do. We still have it, and we don't have to give up on it. And if we come together with like-minded people, we can make a change. So it's not over.
Now, there's the optimistic ending I was hoping for.